All right, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling asthma.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, it's something that affects a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
And we've got some really great insights here from this Asthma Friend online community.
I love that site.
Me too, so practical.
Yeah.
We're going to break down their best advice, whether you're dealing with asthma yourself or maybe helping a loved one manage it.
It's amazing to me how much control we can actually have with asthma.
Right.
It's not just about medication.
Yep.
There's like a whole range of strategies that can really empower people.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about Asthma Friend. It's all about that kind of actionable advice.
Mm-hmm.
And they really emphasize, first and foremost, understanding your triggers, which makes total sense, but it can be overwhelming to think about.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even start?
Right. Well, it's almost like detective work.
Okay.
Because asthma, at its core, it's about inflammation in your airways.
Okay.
So the first step is figuring out what sets off that inflammation for you.
Oh.
And, some of the usual suspects are things like dust mites, pollen, smoke.
Right. The classics.
But Asthma Friend has this great tip that I love about keeping a symptom journal.
A journal. I never thought about that.
It's more powerful than you'd think.
Okay.
If you track your symptoms alongside things like the weather, or even just like what cleaning products you've been using lately, or, your stress levels even, you might start to see patterns you wouldn't have noticed otherwise.
I can see how that would be really helpful because I
Yeah.
know I've had days where, like, my asthma's acting up and I have no clue why.
Exactly.
So once you've got a handle on those triggers, Asthma Friend talks a lot about having an asthma action plan.
Mhm.
And that seems like way more than just remembering to take your meds.
It absolutely is. It's so much more than that.
But-
Think of it as a roadmap, not just for you, but for everyone involved in your care.
Right.
So it outlines what medications you take, when you take them, how to avoid those triggers we were just talking about.
Right. How to monitor your symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is a big one, what to do if you have an emergency.
So everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Especially when something unexpected happens.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of medication, I gotta be honest.
Go for it.
I get so overwhelmed by all the different types of inhalers.
I hear ya.
Can you break it down for me? Like, when would I use one versus another?
Sure. Yeah. It's a really common point of confusion.
Yeah.
You've got your controller medications. Those are the ones that you take regularly to keep inflammation down.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps prevent symptoms in the first place.
Okay.
So it's like, think of it as your daily shield.
So those are the everyday maintenance ones.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then you have what are called your reliever medications, or sometimes people call them rescue inhalers.
Right.
Those are the ones that are designed for when you're actually having an attack and need quick relief.
Okay.
And they basically work by opening up your airways really fast.
So that makes the distinction much clearer.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because Asthma Friend really stresses this idea of sticking to your medication schedule even when you're feeling good.
Right.
Why is that so important?
Consistency is key, really key, for long-term control. Even if you feel fine, if you skip doses, it can actually make your asthma harder to manage in the future.
Oh, wow.
Think of it like exercise. You don't stop working out just because you're feeling really fit one day, right?
Okay, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And of course, regular doctor checkups are important too.
Absolutely.
It's not just to make sure your medication plan's still the right fit, but Asthma Friend also has like a strong warning against self-medicating.
Yeah, it's so tempting to just try to manage things on your own, but
Yeah.
working with your doctor it's really essential.
Definitely.
Now, here's where things get really interesting.
Ooh, I like interesting.
We've talked a lot about the physical side of things.
Right.
But what's fascinating is how much your mental state actually plays a role.
Oh, yeah, Asthma Friend talks about that a lot. It's like
Yeah.
stress can actually make your asthma worse.
Exactly.
I know, I tend to like breathe more shallowly when I'm anxious, so I can see how that would be a factor.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a very real link between your mental state and your breathing patterns.
Okay.
When you're stressed, you tend to take those short, quick breaths, which can then trigger asthma symptoms.
Makes sense.
So Asthma Friend suggests things like deep breathing exercises or even joining a support group
Oh, yeah.
to help manage the emotional side of asthma.
So it's not just about what's happening in your lungs, but in your head, too.
It's all connected, and it actually brings us back to that asthma action plan we were discussing earlier.
Right.
A really effective plan considers your mental well-being just as much as the physical aspects.
I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together.
Right. It's pretty cool.
Now, I know a lot of our listeners might be caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
parents, friends, supporting someone with asthma.
Yeah. Does Asthma Friend have any advice for them?
They do, yeah, and they actually start with the environment.
Oh,
Creating a space that minimizes allergens, that's huge.
okay.
So Asthma Friend talks about air purifiers,
Mm-hmm.
keeping bedding and carpets really clean, and of course, no smoking indoors.
Right, so it's like creating a safe haven for your loved one's lungs.
Exactly, precisely.
Okay, like that.
But it goes beyond the physical environment, too.
Okay.
Asthma Friend also highlights the importance of emotional support.
Yeah, because let's face it, dealing with asthma can be stressful.
Right.
Not just physically, but emotionally, too.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just be there for someone.
Hmm.
Listen to their concerns, offer a shoulder to lean on.
Exactly. Sometimes that's all it takes.
So it sounds like whether you're dealing with asthma yourself or supporting someone who is, understanding those emotional needs is just as important as managing those physical symptoms. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
We're not done yet.
We're not done.
I like it.
We'll be back in part 2 to explore even more insights from Asthma Friend.
Okay.
We'll talk about exercise and some emerging treatments and even answer some listener questions.
Okay, so stay tuned, deep divers.
Stay tuned.
We're just getting started. Welcome back, deep divers. Last time we uncovered some really good advice from Asthma Friend about understanding your triggers, creating that all-important action plan,
Yeah.
and recognizing that the mind-body connection is totally a two-way street.
Absolutely, and we're just getting started.
I know, there's so much more to explore.
So much.
Okay, so one thing that I always thought was, like, totally off limits with asthma was exercise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I figured any kind of, like, physical exertion would just trigger an attack.
Yeah.
But Asthma Friend actually paints a different picture.
They do. It turns out regular physical activity is actually beneficial for people with asthma, just like it is for everybody else.
But how's that possible?
Right. It seems counterintuitive, but exercise can actually improve your lung function over time. It can boost your overall fitness.
Wow.
And it can even reduce your sensitivity to triggers.
So it's not about avoiding exercise altogether, but more about doing it safely and smartly.
Exactly. Asthma Friend is all about empowering you to live a full life.
Right.
And that includes staying active, so
Makes sense.
the key is to work with your doctor to develop a plan that's right for you,
Okay.
considering your needs and your asthma severity and all that.
So what would a safe exercise plan look like for someone with asthma?
Well, it often involves things like warming up properly,
Okay.
maybe choosing activities that are less likely to trigger your symptoms,
Uh-huh.
and of course having your reliever inhaler on hand just in case.
So, like, for example, if pollen's a trigger for you, maybe opt for an indoor workout on those high pollen count days.
Exactly. It's all about being mindful of your environment and making adjustments when you need to.
Okay, now another area Asthma Friend delves into is emerging treatments. I know a lot of people are curious about that, like what's on the horizon.
Yeah, always. There's always new research happening.
So are there any breakthroughs that have the Asthma Friend community buzzing?
Well, one area that's generating a lot of interest is biologics.
Biologics. Okay, that sounds pretty high tech.
It is. It's a relatively new class of medications
Okay.
that target specific pathways in the immune system that are involved in that inflammation that we were talking about earlier.
So instead of just treating the symptoms, they're going after the root cause.
Exactly. And they're showing a lot of promise, especially for people with severe asthma who haven't had success with those more traditional treatments.
That's amazing. It sounds like there's a lot to be helpful about.
There is.
Now, before we move on, we wanted to take some time to address a few listener questions that came in.
Ooh, fun. Let's do it.
Okay, this first one is something I'm sure a lot of parents wonder about. Can children outgrow asthma?
Ooh, that's a question close to a lot of hearts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Okay.
While some children do see their symptoms kind of disappear as they get older, for others it persists into adulthood.
So there's really no way to know for sure.
Right.
But it sounds like early diagnosis, proper management, working closely with a healthcare provider, those are all key.
Absolutely. And even if symptoms do subside, it's important to remember that asthma is a chronic condition.
Okay.
It can reemerge later in life.
Right.
So staying vigilant is important.
What's next on the list?
All right, this one is about air purifiers.
Oh, okay.
Do they really make a difference for people with asthma?
I've heard mixed reviews on those.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the verdict?
Well, air purifiers can definitely play a role in reducing your exposure to those indoor allergens we talked about,
Right.
like dust mites, pollen, pet dander, that kind of thing. They basically filter those particles out of the air.
So it's like having an extra layer of
Yeah.
protection, especially during allergy season.
Exactly. But it's important to remember they're not a cure-all.
Okay.
They work best as part of a more comprehensive approach.
Right. Along with those other strategies.
Yeah, like cleaning and trigger avoidance and all that.
And making sure you get one with a HEPA filter, that's crucial, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't forget to change those filters regularly,
Oh, good point.
according to the manufacturer's instructions.
Okay, let's squeeze in one more question before we wrap up this part.
Sounds good.
What else have we got?
Okay, this one is about travel.
Ooh, fun.
Any tips for managing asthma while on the go?
I love to travel, but I can see how it would present some challenges.
Yeah, Asthma Friend actually has a whole section dedicated to travel tips.
Okay, let's hear it. What are some of their top travel hacks?
Well, one of the most important things is to pack your medications in your carry-on luggage,
Okay.
never in your checked bags. That way you have them with you at all times.
Right, right. Be prepared for anything.
Exactly. They also recommend researching your destination.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at the air quality, pollen counts, especially if you're traveling during allergy season.
So it's like scoping out the environment before you even arrive?
Exactly. And just like with exercise, choosing activities that are less likely to trigger your asthma is a good idea.
Okay.
If you know pollution's an issue, maybe opt for those indoor attractions or tours, that kind of thing.
So it's all about planning ahead and knowing your triggers.
Exactly. And of course, having your asthma action plan with you at all times.
Right.
That's crucial. It's your roadmap to staying healthy on the road.
I love it.
Yeah.
This has been so helpful, but unfortunately we are out of time for this part of our deep dive.
Don't worry, though, we'll be back for part 3
Yes, we will.
to uncover even more from Asthma Friend.
Ooh. What else is coming up?
We'll talk about diet, alternative therapies,
Nice.
and we'll tackle a few more of your burning questions.
Stay tuned, deep divers. There's still so much more to uncover. Welcome back, deep divers. We're on the final part of our exploration into asthma, and I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty empowered by all this advice we've uncovered from Asthma Friend.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how much control we can have, right, when we arm ourselves with the right info.
Absolutely. And today we're going to dive into some areas that I've always been kind of curious about, like the role of diet, alternative therapies. We've got a few more of those listener questions to get to.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's talk food. Is there any truth to the idea that what you eat can actually, impact your asthma?
Well, there's definitely growing interest in that connection.
Okay.
While there's no magic asthma diet,
Right.
certain foods and nutrients have been linked to both easing and worsening symptoms.
So it's less about, eliminating specific foods and more about focusing on an overall healthy eating pattern.
Exactly. Asthma Friend really emphasizes a balanced diet, lots of fruits and veggies, whole grains, lean protein, that kind of thing.
That sounds like pretty solid advice for anyone, whether you have asthma or not.
Right. It's a great foundation for overall health.
Okay, but for people with asthma, are there certain nutrients that might be especially beneficial?
Well, Asthma Friend points to some interesting research on omega-3 fatty acids.
Ah, omega-3s. Those are the healthy fats found in, salmon, tuna, right?
Exactly. And some studies suggest that they may have anti-inflammatory effects that could help reduce those asthma symptoms.
So could changing what you eat actually make a difference in how you experience asthma?
It's definitely a question worth exploring with your doctor or a registered dietitian.
I like the way you put that. It's not about, giving definitive answers, but more about getting people to think about food in a new way.
Right, exactly.
What other nutrients does Asthma Friend highlight?
Well, they talk about vitamin D.
Okay.
There's a link between vitamin D deficiency and increased asthma severity.
Huh.
Now, this doesn't mean everyone with asthma needs to start taking supplements, but it's worth discussing with your doctor, especially if you're not getting much sun exposure.
So soaking up some rays could potentially have benefits beyond just a good mood.
Potentially, yeah.
Now, on the flip side, are there any dietary habits that Asthma Friend cautions against?
They do advise being mindful of processed foods, sugary drinks, and unhealthy fats.
Right, those usual suspects.
Those can contribute to inflammation throughout the body, which could then worsen asthma
Makes
symptoms.
sense. It's all about balance, right.
Exactly. It's those overall dietary patterns that seem to have the biggest impact.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something Asthma Friend dedicates a whole section to complementary and alternative therapies.
Ooh.
What kinds of therapies are we talking about here?
They cover a really wide range from breathing exercises to acupuncture and herbal remedies.
Wow.
But they're very clear that these therapies should be used alongside, not instead of, conventional medical treatment.
So it's about integrating different approaches, finding what works best for you.
Exactly. One therapy they highlight is breathing exercises. Techniques like diaphragmatic breathing and pursed lip breathing can really help improve lung capacity and reduce shortness of breath.
I've actually tried those before. They can be really helpful for managing stress and anxiety too.
That's a great point. Remember that mind-body connection we talked about?
Oh yeah, it's all connected.
It all comes full circle. Another therapy they mention is yoga.
Oh yeah, yoga.
Certain poses can help open up the chest and improve airflow.
And the mindfulness aspect of yoga could be beneficial for managing the emotional side of asthma too.
Absolutely. It's a really holistic approach to well-being.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock and we have time for a couple more listener questions before we wrap up.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right, this one is about air travel. Is it safe for people with asthma to fly?
Ooh, good question. For most people with well-controlled asthma, flying is perfectly safe.
Okay, good.
But Asthma Friend does offer some helpful advice.
What are their top tips for flying with asthma?
Well, first and foremost, talk to your doctor before you fly, especially if you've had any recent flare-ups or changes in your symptoms.
Makes sense. Always a good idea to get the expert opinion.
Definitely. And then stay hydrated. The air in airplanes can be super dry and irritating,
Right.
so drink plenty of water.
Good advice for everyone, really.
Oh, and pack your medications in your carry-on, never in checked bags.
You know, that's probably good advice even if you don't have asthma.
True. You never know what could happen with those check bags.
Exactly. Anything else?
Oh, they also recommend bringing a copy of your asthma action plan with you.
That way everyone's on the same page, even at 30,000 feet.
Exactly.
Okay, last question. What have our listeners been wondering about?
Okay, this one's about the future. What are some promising areas of research for asthma treatment?
Always looking ahead. So what's on the horizon?
Well, there's a lot of exciting research happening, but one area that Asthma Friend highlights is personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine. Okay, tell me more about that.
It's all about tailoring treatment to an individual's unique genetic makeup, lifestyle, and environmental factors.
So imagine a future where your asthma treatment is completely customized to you.
Exactly. It has the potential to revolutionize asthma care.
It sounds like there's a lot to be hopeful about.
Absolutely. And that's really the message that Asthma Friend leaves us with: knowledge is power. By understanding the condition, taking those proactive steps, and staying informed, we can really empower ourselves and our loved ones to live full and active lives.
Beautifully said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into asthma prevention.
It's been a journey.
We covered a lot of ground. We talked about understanding those triggers, managing medications, exploring that mind-body connection, and we even peeked into the future of asthma care.
It's been a lot, but hopefully our listeners feel equipped with some practical knowledge, a sense of possibility.
And remember, you're not alone in this. If you're looking for more support, more resources, a sense of community, be sure to check out the Asthma Friend website.
They've got a wealth of information and a really supportive community.
And as always, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep breathing easy, deep divers.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a wrap for today's deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.